Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Move with Love podcast. I am April Miranda, your host, healer, and guide. And today we have someone who has really transformed my life, let's just say, with her knowledge, with her expertise, and just with that fire that she blasts all day, every day. This is Nicolette Nettnay, this astrological business consultant. Please welcome Nicolette
Hey,
Nettnay of the
April.
MetaBoss Collective.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that intro. It is blasting fire all day, every day. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Like usually I get the guests to like send me the bio, but I'm like, no, like this is my personal experience of you. And it's true and authentic. And I'm so excited that you said yes to this because yeah, working with you, I see astrology as logical information.
Yes. My evil plan works.
Right.
Good.
With whether it's personally or professionally or even on in the collective, the big picture, it just makes sense. So thank you
Okay.
for saying yes. Welcome. What's exciting you today?
Oh my gosh, life. We on the topic of podcasts, we just recorded our own last night. I'm starting to finally work on one. And it's so unexpected, but it's diving into the divine dark feminine, which is something that I have not done myself because I've been all up in this toxic masculine, very logical energy this whole time. So that's what I'm recently excited about.
Okay, like even that is a whole other episode. The
I know,
dark
right?
feminine energy. And oh, it's you even like inspired me to just liberate the dark. I remember like not so
Mhm.
love and light. I'm like, oh yeah, like liberate the light and the dark because it's part of the whole spectrum that makes us human.
Yeah. And we've repressed it for long enough. So let's just get out here and like, let's fuck shit up.
I am on board. Oh, okay. First question. Tell me one thing that you're proud of.
Yay. I'm so proud of starting to work on this nonprofit. It's been what has driven my entire career, my entire first, level of life that we have with our business plan, to actually show up consistently because I knew that this was coming eventually. So we are starting a nonprofit called Rooted Rebellion. And this spring, we're actually going to just start like our grassroots campaign. We're going to start touring through US and Canada. And like, I'm just getting a little sprinter van. And we're going to start, activating communities, teaching people about sustainable living and introducing plant medicine, but also just reconnecting with earth and reconnecting with their community. And literally that's just the beginning of it. We're hoping to build like, communes, community greenhouses, create like tree planting initiatives. And we're going to do festivals too, but that's way in the future. But that's what I'm like the most proud of right now is we actually have started to develop the team. Of course, it's people that I work with. And I'm proud that I've met people in the world that want to do this as well, because that was something I was severely lacking when I started my career. Was like, I want friends, but I don't want friends that sit around and gossip and like drink. Like I want like save the world friends. So I guess actually that's what I'm most proud of.
Oh, wow. And it's been such a joy to witness your story unfold as you practice what you preach. When you talk about
Mhm.
like first level, work on yourself, second level, work on your, like you got your method that you've been sharing with all of us, but you are actually living and breathing, following your astrological natal chart, like as a step system, as a little handbook. And it's
Mhm.
not easy. You talk about the inner
So
and
hard.
outer work, the light and the dark, that it takes a lot of courage to dive into. And so I want to just celebrate and honor you for having the courage, having the balls to just dive in. But what
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask, but what are three main turning points in your life that have contributed to where you are today and who you are today?
Honestly, I think that my first one, it was experiencing intense burnout. In my first business, I used to be a costume designer. That was like my big dream, my big goal. And I got very entrenched into the cosplay industry of all things. And I did this silly thing that I am very careful not to replicate now is I created like a technique that no one else could steal, that no one else could replicate. And I was doing that for my costume design. So I made my business into like a one of a kind thing. And I was the only one that could sew them. So I was making thousands every month, but I was the only person that could fulfill it, no matter how many employees or volunteers we had. So I burned out so hard, so quickly. It was only like 4 years into that career. And it got to the point, like, I did share that I am definitely overcoming my toxic masculine. It's a lifetime journey, I think. And I never cried ever since I was like, 10. And this was maybe like age 24. And I was just so exhausted emotionally, physically, mentally, that I was just crying in public. I was just catch myself like crying in public. So that was a big one when I started doing yoga again. And like yoga got me in my body. And then like the first time that I ever meditated, my third eye opened. And it was, I would call that like my all-time low, because it was the worst I've ever treated myself. And it was all in the name of the grind, like making money, achieving that goal. And it was all a goal that I said I was going to achieve. So it was more about overcoming the surface of success, right? I'm sure you've experienced that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was my first one. It started with burnout, and it was a third eye opening experience. So that was my first one. For people listening, or even yourself, like, is burnout, is exhaustion in your first career too. I want to say it like that. In your first career that you think is going to define you, is that something that you see a lot with people?
Oh, definitely. Like I was like I moved to Toronto to be the rich and famous movie star, but it was yoga. Same with you. It was like yoga helping people rooted, grounded, and sane. And then I did my yoga teacher training, and then I became a full-time yoga teacher downtown Toronto. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is defeating the purpose. And then I was getting tired by holding space and creating these beautiful yoga classes. And they would be like, oh, thank you. That was so good. And that was everything that I needed. And then once the yogis left, I would cry. Because I'm like, what am I doing? Like I was just depleting all my energy. And, like instead of filling my cup, I was running dry. And that was a little breakdown for me. And then I found Reiki, which was a different journey. I'm like, oh, that's how I can replenish my energy. And then I did Reiki training. So it's just like following the path of what didn't feel good, and then finding what feels good. So I definitely found myself burning out even in that holistic healing industry.
It's pretty common. It is. It's like the thing that we think is going to heal us is actually, like, I think we try and monetize it too quickly without embodying it. It's like, it's just our hustle culture, unfortunately. And it's impossible to escape. I'm not going to lie about that and say like, I'm always good. No, I just burned out like this weekend because I tried to get something done. So I don't know if it ever goes away, but I think we become more aware of it. So that was my first one. It was burnout. It was exhaustion. And then I found astrology and, started manifesting with the moon. And my second one, it was actually a really messed up twin flame relationship. And I honestly, for people who are listening, I have my Venus and my Lilith, which are both very impactful relationship placements. They're both in Libra. Libra is, bless them, the biggest pushover on the planet. And that's how I was showing up in relationships. So, you know, as an arrogant Leo, I met an arrogant Virgo, and we were both like, we're going to be like a power couple. But really, it just turned into like psychological abuse. And I really did lose myself. So finally, like, we were together for, I think, almost 2 years. But through that, that's when I really oddly, unhealthily as well, like compartmentalized my life. And I developed the shit out of my business because it was almost like a drive to get independence from him because I didn't want to get sucked into his life. He was like, we're going to have babies and I'm going to chain you to my kitchen. And I was like, well, you know, I really want to move to San Diego where he lives. And that was the only appeal. And when I finally faced that reality, like when I finally had my independence in my own business, I was like, no, I don't want to marry this wealthy man that's going to take care of me. Get me the hell away from this person. So that was my second one. And I think that's probably pretty common as well for people, for women. I don't want to just categorize it, but like, I'm sure men experience that too. Like there's male sugar babies out there. I don't know. But I just, you know, it was so appealing. It was like a fairy tale. It was like, oh, this older, wealthier man from another country, because I'm, you know, in Canada, wants to sweep me off my feet. And then it was like, no, he just wants to, you know, classic narcissist, make me play a role in his life. So yeah, and it forced me into my business, which was really cool. And actually the third one was like last month. I wasn't expecting that one either. It was another relationship, but it was very short, very impactful. And it forced me to open myself up again. First time I've ever actually like allowed myself to feel love, which is crazy, but it's life. And it just, you know, very clearly, it was long distance. Very clearly he couldn't handle any of it, even though he was trying to like define himself as divine masculine. Like, I can hold it down for you. No, you can't, dude. You you don't even have like like, this is so arrogant, but it's true. It's like we're not on the same level. Like I've developed so much success and sustainability and self-awareness. So it's like, no, I've been my own divine masculine for quite a while now. And I was trying to allow my divine feminine to open up with him. So I was feeling feelings. And at one point when he stopped communicating, it was like spiritual ghosting, I suppose, because he was still showing up, but he wasn't showing up, I guess. I was depressed. I was like feeling anxiety for the first time in my life. And that's actually what helped me develop this astrology to psychology connection. So it's like all these really horrible things happen, and we have to, like, I've always been that person that's like on the floor crying. I'm like, what's the lesson? So that was my third one. It was another relationship, but it was like psychological, emotional awareness, I suppose. So yeah, lots of things happening.
Wow. And yeah, thank you always for sharing your vulnerability with these raw, authentic experiences, because, you know, you having the courage to share that will give listeners or viewers the permission to be real and honest with themselves and real and honest with whether it's their partners, whether it's with their clients. And that's why, like, having your candor here on the my podcast is really truly a gift. But like, I want to ask you how did you find astrology? Because the way it has unfolded as me witnessing you, it's like you really like debunked the pop astrology. You really you really got into the history, the mythology, like you really dive in deep. But I want to know, like, what was the origin story of how Nicolette Nettnay found or discovered astrology?
It's actually pretty funny because I was very, very cynical, a very like scientific, logical brain. And anytime someone was like, "Oh, you're a Leo, that's why you're like that," I was like, "Shut up, astrology is not real." And it was, oddly enough, it was fashion that got me into it when I was really, really young, like 13, 14. Me and my friend had like this Wiccan book, and you know, we were raised in Catholic school, so her mom like burned it and whatever. But I remember when I was promoting my other business, I started seeing like the trend of witchcraft online, and I saw the same book that we had when we were younger. So I purchased it again, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is all about nature and the moon. This has nothing to do with like spells or, you know, like whatever, hexing people or like whatever. Her mom thought we were satanic, of course. And I literally like, I was like, you know what? I have to prove this to myself. So I went through all my old journals and I was like, oh, I lost things when the moon was waning and I gained things when the moon was waxing. And that's where it started. That's it. But I had to, and I continue to have to prove it to myself. I'm not just like, Mercury retrograde makes you want to talk to your ex. It's like, no, why? Like, why?
Yeah.
Right. So it was honestly like a fashion trend on Instagram that got me into it, which is so weird. But
okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So like the conversation with what you share on Instagram or even with us in the collective, you talk about like finding the balance, masculine, feminine, you know, rest and go or hustle and flow, whatever you want to call it, or conscious and subconscious. Like I know you've been talking about this divine dance. Okay. So I want you to just share with how you've been navigating that in your life and what you've been witnessing in the collective, because it's really a potent convo that needs to be had on the daily.
It should be a daily thing. Honestly, it was witnessing the own toxic compartmentalization of my own life sabotage my business that made me realize like, oh, you can't lie. There cannot be lying. Like if you want professional success, you need to have personal success. If you want money, you need love. It's like the heart chakra. If you want consciousness, you need to dive into your unconscious state. Like there's no escaping this balance. And our society is sick and we're making ourselves miserable by trying to like repress, hide, shame, whatever. There's so many things that we're just, trained to do. And it's like, you can't have, like you're not a boss babe unless you have like a fake happy relationship. And it's like, no, what if talking about your growth in your relationship authentically is what fuels your professional life, like that authenticity and the lessons. It's like that was the biggest thing that I saw in the industry that just disgusted me. The more I saw like other coaches, but also my life and my client base is like, it's like the women that show up the strongest, they have the most to hide.
Wow.
I hate to say that. And like, what if we were all just honest? What kind of world would we live in? I don't know.
Oh my gosh. When you see the ones that show up the strongest are the ones that have most to hide. Like what? Like I'm even just seeing this deep visual of like, this vast powerhouse, but like the roots go so deep and like the energy that like, I'm like, it's so guttural and I'm going to say dark, right? And it's like, the more I honor the roots, it's like the spectrum just grows. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't just, exactly what you said. If you want more professional growth, then you have to dive into the personal. And you said conscious and subconscious. So everything is landing with me. I hope the viewers can keep up with what we're talking about. But how can we relate this to how astrology can help us navigate that balance?
That was actually one of the things that I struggled with the most in my business, because I obviously, like, I started out manifesting with the moon, and that's like, it doesn't have to be a daily practice, but it has become one. You're in the collective. You can just start with the full and the new moon, but really, I wanted to help people build their business with their natal chart, because all of our potential and our destiny is in there. And then on the other side, you've got manifesting with the moon. And I was struggling to put them together. And it's like so simple looking back now. It's like manifesting with the moon helps you become the person you're supposed to be to live into that potential in your chart, because so many people would show up and be like, oh, it says in here I'm supposed to be like a Reiki healer, whatever. And it's like, you're not that person yet. So how do you become that person? You face the challenges with the full moon and you try and manifest things with the new moon. And I want to clarify too, while we've got an audience here, I actually don't believe in manifesting. I believe in putting the work in to become the person that can actually handle the things that you want in life. That's it. I don't think there's any like, I want a car. Like, I just don't believe in that. It's not, you've been tricked if that's what you believe.
No. And I thank you for that, because I was one, like, new moon, we make our wishes,
right?
We plant the seeds. And like, I would work with like, under whatever season the sun was in. So I would like make wishes according to like, what the qualities are in Libra, or, so I would still work with that. But it made such perfect sense when you said, no, you got to become the person to handle that. And I'm like, oh, duh, obviously, because we got to be a vibrational match.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I understood that, but just hearing it in a different way, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got work to do, and like the work, I think I've worked with you for a bit, like longer than a year now, but it has been a potent inner exploration that I know I can feel, because just looking at my chart and like different parts, I would see whether it's a raging bull, whether it's like that, like, oh, that was my Taurus energy, and then there was like all the Aries stuff, sun, moon, arrows, 8,000. And then looking on the other end of the spectrum, whether it was like looking at the Scorpio, when you say the equilibrium swings, you're like, you may not go to the low vibes. You may go to the other end and experience the low vibes on the other side. I'm like, what? I'm like, I was totally that person, so it is quite profound. It's like a mirror when you actually dive into seeing the equilibrium, seeing the astrological map in your own life. And so it is having a big taste of humble pie. Again and again and again. I'm like,
every day eat the pie.
Right? Because it's so easy to be blind and frolicking and in
blame everyone else for your problems,
right? In victim mode. But like, when I see the astrological chart as like this encyclopedia of who we're meant to become, I really feel that this is something that everyone needs to know. Like, not just your sun, not just moon and rising, but like all of it. So what is a message? What would you want to like, now that you have an audience, what would you want to share with whoever is listening?
Oh gosh, I really just think it sounds so cliche, but it really is about like the ethics and the genuine drive. Like, why do you want what you want? Is it because it's going to help people? Is it because it's going to save the world? Is it because, it's your destiny? Like, whatever, like, or is it because you think that's what you're supposed to achieve? Is it because it's going to look good? Is it because it's going to, validate you? It's like we have to just ditch that completely and then just let everything under the surface, behind the scenes, like you're saying, the person looking in that reflection, that's what has to be driving the surface success, I think.
That's deep.
That's good.
Like letting that sit, letting that brew for a bit, because that was a deep invitation, like for even to say that, like, make sure the intention is real, make sure it's for you, for your soul, to help, to serve, not to look good, not to get that validation. What does Move with Love mean to you?
I really feel like, I guess I'll just speak to my past self, or yeah, like, you know, the people we're supposed to help in the present, it is our past self. So it would be to literally move with love and not let spite or proving something be what drives you. Because I was told so much when I was younger, like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you know, you won't do that. Oh, that's impossible. And I'd be like, I'll fucking show you. And that would burn me out, and it would put me in miserable positions, or like I'm saying, the surface or the external. And when I like move with love, when I move with compassion, actually, that's what it is. When I move with compassion for my past self, for others, every single thing that I do in the world, it's to grow and develop and you know, like create those waves, those ripples that turn into waves. That's moving with love. Because if we're out here moving with fear, then we just create more fear in the world, and it just perpetuates like more low self-esteem and more like fight or flight, or however you want to talk about it. But like if we just go out into the world and we're like friendly, authentic human beings, and I don't mean like pushovers or anything like that. I just mean like genuine people trying to do genuine good things in the world. Like it will happen. It actually does happen. It takes some time, but it happens.
And even when you say that, it like, I like how you even mentioned to move with love and not just fear, but in spite or to prove or to, you know what I mean? Like it's all that other stuff, those all the other motives that aren't serving you or the collective, you know? And I guess that's why, you know, big picture is to, yes, the more we heal ourselves, that we will heal generations across time and space. Like the lineage goes in both directions. So I do feel we have this mission as Soul Fam in this collective to show up and play big.
Yes, I love the way you phrased that. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to, I just think it's going to come back and get you if you don't, if I'm being honest, because I've experienced it, clients, other coaches, I've witnessed it when people don't move with love, when they don't build with love, businesses, relationships, whatever. And it always crumbles. It always comes back to bite them in the ass. And they almost end up like worse than when they started. So it's like, why don't we just do it authentically first? It was a crazy idea. Let's just try it and be real first instead of being a bot head.
Yeah, wild idea. Let's be true and authentic. Let's see how that turns out.
Exactly.
You mentioned at the very beginning of the episode this nonprofit that you created to like plant trees and build community and save the earth. And I know that's like your thing, like let's just all get rich and save the earth. But I want to hear your words. Like, what is your big purpose?
Oh, it really is. Well, our purpose, it's in our chart. I think you and me have the same purpose, actually. Possibly. Anyways, it's really to just get people in their potential, first of all. Like level 1, get in your potential, be who you're supposed to be. Level 2, so that you can save the world. Like get in your potential and then get in your activist potential. That's my purpose. That's all I want. I don't care about money or fame or even like any success. If we can just like all get in our potential and all do our collective effort to save the world, I'm good. I'm satisfied.
Wow. Well, you're doing the thing. You
Thank
are
you.
leading by example. You are doing the inner and outer work. You are getting rich and saving the world. So, thank you for leading by example.
Thank you.
What I guess what offerings do you have that you would love to share with the audience?
Honestly, I think that it really does need to start with your natal chart. So many people go too big, too fast. And like I said, that's the one we fall. So I would just encourage everyone to get, you know, like if you have no money at all, I just created an $11 guide with all my notes. It's available on my Instagram in the shop, or your natal chart, $50, or the collective, $25 a month. Like any investment that you can just like start is magical. And of course, if you are like ambitious AF, we have the prereq pack where it's like every single thing that you're going to need to start building your business, right? So if you're like intimidated by an investment, or you literally can't make it, like I always say, I couldn't afford myself 5-6 years ago. I couldn't, there's no way. Just join the collective. That's like my wish for everyone. And it's metabosscollective.com, and it's literally like 2-week free trial, $25 a month. And we go ham in there. We do, like, April, you're inside, and it's like we are always manifesting, we're always growing. And there's all these other circles and courses inside where you push yourself to get into your authenticity, to be brave, to even like connect with other people too, like in the career confidence connection. That's probably my favorite thing in there, to be honest. So join the collective.
Yes, and I am an advocate for the MetaBoss Collective, because even your moon blogs that come once a month, like I read them at the beginning, and then when I'm feeling something brewing, I'm like, what did she say about this? And I'm like, oh, that's why. Like it was like Wednesday or something earlier this week. I'm like, I could feel like I wanted to break something or scream. I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, oh, the full moon in Aries is around the corner. And I looked at the exact degree. I'm like, oh, it's like lighting up right in the middle of my sun and moon and that Eros guy. So I'm like, oh, I'm feeling all of that now.
Yes,
but it just made sense. So I, even just those blogs, I say I get my money's worth, just to in to see what is happening out there that is affecting me in here.
And then that's calling you to like step up and like do the thing, be brave, right?
Oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, so it's you just feel this internal pull, and then when you just connect to astrology, it just makes sense. Okay, so that is really what I want to share by having you here on the show. But where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Yeah, I'm honestly obsessed with Instagram. It's a problem. MetaBoss Collective. And like I said, we've got the website. That's our community. And I am just starting my own podcast right now, but it really isn't about my past, what I've built at all. It is about diving into the divine feminine that it's going to take to like change the world, like rebellious, changing the world, revolutionize the world. And that is just called Love and Leadership. So thank you, April.
Well, thank you for saying yes for this interview, and continuously doing your thing, because it's truly admirable, and I'm glad I'm on board, just getting all the downloads I can and keeping up as a mom, as an entrepreneur on my end as well. But I feel a sense of community in your community.
That's good. That's what I wanted.
The soulful entrepreneurs, the spiritual ladies and men that are doing the thing, so so thank you again, Nicolette Nettnay. Find her at the metabosscollective.com or MetaBoss Collective on Instagram. I'll put all the links, whether it's Spotify, on YouTube. So until next time, let's share the message, the mindset, the lifestyle. Let's move with love together.